Welcome to our deep dive today on The Rudest Book Ever. You know, it's a book that's not afraid to tell it like it is.
Definitely grabs your attention.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for, to unpack these sometimes shocking statements and see if we can find some real wisdom in them. You game for that.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, one of the first things that really jumped out at me was this idea, and it's kind of a weird one, that we're all products. Like, the book argues we're all shaped by our upbringing and all the expectations society throws at us.
It's a strange way to think about ourselves, right,
hmm
as products. But when you really consider it, there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, like how so?
Well, think about all the messages we've received since we were kids, about what success means, how to behave. It's like we're handed a script.
Oh, totally. And the book even jokes that sometimes those scripts, they're not exactly award-winning material,
Just,
right?
yeah. And you know what the book calls it? It
Yeah.
says sometimes parents accidentally create the shoddy products because they teach their kids what to think instead of how to think.
Oh, that's a good point. It's not about blaming parents or
Yeah,
anything,
no, not at all.
but it makes you realize how important it is to encourage critical thinking. To question things, analyze, not just accept everything at face value.
Exactly. To think for yourself. That really resonates with me because I can remember when I was younger, so many of my beliefs were just things I'd picked up from around me. It was like the air I breathed, never even thought to question it.
That's a great way to put it. And this book, it's like a breath of fresh air, challenging all those assumptions we inherit.
Right. And what's interesting is that the book talks about how these early experiences, particularly emotional ones, even if we don't fully understand them as kids, they can have this huge impact on how we see the world.
It's like those early experiences, they kind of lay the foundation for everything that comes after. So how do we break free from those patterns, those pre-programmed responses?
That's where learning to think critically comes in, becoming aware of our own biases and assumptions, questioning everything.
So instead of just accepting the scripts we're given, we start writing our own, which leads us to another big idea in the book, this whole notion of being special.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. We hear so much about how everyone is special.
Right, like it's a given.
Yeah. But this book, it kind of flips that on its head. It's like, hold on a second. Special is not a participation trophy. You don't get it just for showing up.
Okay, so how does the book define special?
It's about what you accomplish. It's about building the strong sense of self-belief, not needing others to validate you all the time.
So it's less about being the most popular or successful in the traditional sense and more about defining success on your own terms.
Exactly. What are your passions?
Yeah.
Your values? What do you want to achieve? It's about going after those things, even if they don't fit into some predefined mold. Actually, the book has this great phrase. It says, real winning is about becoming too good to be ignored.
Oh, I love that. It's
Yeah.
not about seeking approval. It's about letting your actions speak for themselves.
And that idea of real winning ties into a lot of what we'll be unpacking today.
It's about living a life that's true to yourself, right? Not chasing some external definition of success that might not even mean anything in the end.
Now you're getting it. It's about finding that place where you feel truly fulfilled, truly aligned with who you are. And that's something we can all strive for. And another thing this book tackles head on is rejection. You know how much that can sting?
Oh, yeah, we've all been there. But it's almost refreshing how this book just lays it out there.
Right. It doesn't sugarcoat it at all. In fact, one of the first things it says about rejection is rejections are normal.
So simple, but kind of freeing when you really think about it.
It is. Because it's easy to feel like you're the only one constantly facing rejection, but it happens to everyone.
Like we said earlier, you can't win them all, right?
Exactly. But it's how you handle those losses that really matters.
Mhm.
And this book encourages us to see rejection not as a setback.
But as redirection.
You got it. Like a course correction. Maybe that rejection was actually steering you towards something better, something more aligned with who you are.
I like that. So instead of dwelling on it or taking it personally, you just think, okay, moving on. What's next?
Exactly. See, rejection as an opportunity, not a roadblock. Now, speaking of how we view things, this book has an interesting take on how we see other people.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It basically says we should embrace the idea that people are weird.
Wow, okay. Strong words.
I know, right? But before you get the wrong idea, it's not about being judgmental.
So it's deeper than that.
It is. It's about recognizing that we can never really truly know what's going on in someone else's head.
Because we only see a tiny sliver of who they are.
Right. We base our opinions on limited interactions, on these little snapshots of their lives. But the truth is, Everyone is complex. We all have our own baggage, our own motivations, our own weirdness.
It's like that saying, never judge a book by its cover, right? Someone might seem totally put together on the surface, but underneath?
Exactly. And the book argues that if we can embrace this weirdness, if we can accept that we'll never fully understand each other,
It can actually make us more compassionate.
more understanding, more forgiving, because we're all just trying to figure things out as we go.
That's such a good point. It's like we talked about earlier with real winning. It's not about being perfect or always having it together. It's about growth, resilience, learning from those messy, weird moments.
Exactly. And speaking of learning and growth, the book has some strong opinions on getting advice.
Oh, this should be good. I'm always up for different perspectives on advice giving. Lay it on me.
Well, it pretty much says that most unsolicited advice is useless.
Oh, wow. I can already see that rubbing some people the wrong way.
Right. It sounds harsh, but the point is, when someone offers advice without being asked, they're often speaking from their own experiences.
Which might not apply to your situation at all.
Exactly. It's like trying to give someone directions without knowing where they're starting from or where they're trying to go.
You could end up leading them further astray. So what's the book's solution? How should we be seeking out advice?
It all comes back to being discerning. Find mentors, guides, people you trust who've actually walked the path you're on.
People who will listen without judgment and offer guidance based on real experience.
And don't be afraid to trust your own gut. You're the captain of your own ship, remember. You get to decide who to listen to and what advice resonates with you.
It's about taking ownership of your own journey, which is something this book emphasizes over and over again. And speaking of journeys, this brings us to another fascinating topic from the book. This idea of pursuing happiness versus seeking satisfaction. So it's not just about chasing those fleeting moments of happiness, it's about something deeper, huh?
Right. It's about feeling truly satisfied with your life. And the book makes this interesting point that always chasing happiness can actually backfire.
How so?
Well, think about it. When we're constantly seeking pleasure, always trying to avoid any kind of discomfort, we end up making decisions based on instant gratification.
Instead of thinking about the long term,
Exactly. And that can lead us down a path where we're never truly fulfilled.
it's like choosing to eat a whole pint of ice cream because it makes you feel good in the moment, even though you know you'll regret it later. You're going for that quick hit of happiness, but
But it's fleeting. True satisfaction comes from aligning your actions with your values,
yeah.
from pursuing goals that give you a sense of purpose, even if the journey isn't always easy or fun.
So it's not always about what feels good in the moment. It's about making choices that lead to that deeper sense of fulfillment, right?
Right. It's about playing the long game, building a life that feels meaningful, not just enjoyable. And a big part of that, the book argues, is finding activities that bring you genuine joy.
Not just distractions or fleeting pleasures.
Right, things that make you think, that challenge you, that connect you to something bigger than yourself. It's like that saying, find what sparks your soul and let it consume you. Have you ever heard that one?
Oh, I love that quote. And it speaks to that passion and engagement that this book is all about.
It all comes back to knowing yourself, right? Understanding your own wants and needs, your values, what truly makes you tick. And the book has this great exercise.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
It's simple, but it really makes you think. It
Right.
says, make a list of everything you do in a day and then categorize each activity. Is it something you do because it aligns with your values? Does it genuinely interest you? Or is it just a way to kill time, a quick hit of pleasure?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to try that. It makes you really examine how you're spending your time.
It can be eye-opening, right?
Yeah.
And it ties into this other important point the book makes about the dangers of following the crowd and always seeking approval from others.
Oh, that need for validation. It's something we all struggle with.
Right. And the book warns against this tendency to put others on a pedestal, to idolize them, because it sets us up for disappointment.
Because no one can live up to those unrealistic expectations.
Exactly. And it prevents us from finding our own path.
Right.
The book has this great line that says, admire, never follow.
Meaning appreciate the good qualities you see in others.
But don't try to become them. Embrace your own unique strengths, your own path.
It's about owning who you are, quirks and all, which I guess ties back to the people are weird idea, right?
Exactly. We're all a little weird in our own way. And that's okay. In fact, that's what makes life interesting. Now, another trap the book warns against is this thing it calls the ego trap.
Okay, and what's that all about?
It's when we tie our self-worth to what other people think of us. We're constantly seeking their approval, comparing ourselves, feeling insecure.
Always worried about what others think instead of focusing on what truly matters to us.
It's exhausting, right? And the book reminds us we can't control what other people think. True freedom comes from cultivating this deep sense of self-worth that comes from within.
So it's not about seeking likes on social media or trying to please everyone. It's about building that inner confidence, that self-acceptance.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
And all of this leads to what I think is one of the most important messages of the book: the need to develop your own critical thinking skills in a world that's constantly telling you what to think.
That's so important, especially now when we're bombarded with information from all sides.
Right, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of input, but are you really processing any of it?
Mm.
The book encourages us to be more discerning, to question everything, seek out different perspectives, and ultimately form our own conclusions.
Instead of just accepting everything at face value.
Exactly. It's about learning how to navigate this world, this constant stream of information, and come to your own understanding. And sometimes that means being willing to say, I don't know.
Because admitting you don't have all the answers, that's the first step to learning, isn't it?
It is. It's about approaching learning with humility and curiosity, being open to new information, and accepting that you might be wrong sometimes. And that's okay, because changing your mind when presented with new evidence, that's a sign of growth, not weakness.
That's a great point to end on. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Rudest Book Ever, I think it's safe to say that while the book's blunt style might not be for everyone, there's a lot of wisdom to be found in its pages. It's a call to action, to question everything, embrace our own weirdness, and forge our own paths. And maybe, just maybe, to become a little bit ruder in the process by being unapologetically true to ourselves. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
And remember, admire, never follow.